Hi, this video is going to be a quick overview of fungi. Let's get started. Fungi are eukaryotic organisms. Now, if you remember from my previous video that went over protozoa, protozoa are eukaryotic organisms that are always unicellular. However, with fungi, fungi can be unicellular or multicellular. The unicellular form of fungi are known as yeast. And you might be familiar with yeast in the cooking world, right? Yeast is what helps bread rise. You might know it in the more medical sense of, let's say, a yeast infection. The multicellular form of fungi includes mushrooms and molds. Most fungi are in the form of molds. An example of a mold is the mold called Penicillium cryosogenum. And this mold is where we get the antibiotic penicillin from. And we'll talk a little bit more about this later when we discuss the history of microbiology. Fungi have cell walls. Now, if they're considered a true fungi, then they have chitin in their cell walls. And what chitin is a complex polysaccharide. Complex polysaccharide. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later when we go in depth regarding fungi in our future videos. But poly refers to many, saccharide referring to sugars. So it's a molecule that contains many sugars. And the important thing about chitin is that it helps provide strength to the cell wall. As well as a shape or rigidity to the cell wall. Fungi can reproduce sexually or asexually. So if they were to reproduce sexually, you would have two fungus to reproduce. And if it were done asexually, you would have just a singular fungus that would be needed to reproduce. So fungi, if they reproduce asexually, do so through the process called budding. And I demonstrate that a little bit here, where you have a new fungus that is essentially detaching from the original fungus here, but we'll talk more about that later on. And as for their food and environment, fungi consume organic compounds that they get from their environment, which would be soil, fresh water, an animal, or a host. That's it for this video. I hope this video helps. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share.